We're here in Warsaw at the educational conference organized by Wolters Kluwer, and we're here with Professor Barrym Zuckermanem talking about Reach Out and Read and why pediatricians started to promote reading to parents of young children. Hello.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and hope that children in Poland can benefit from pediatricians giving books like they do in the U.S.
Yes, I had one question about that. Why did pediatricians start to recommend reading?
Okay. Well, first of all, we see children at a young age, and physically most of them are healthy. And then we see them entering school, particularly low-income children, and they're not doing well and they become sad, and that makes us feel bad. So we felt we needed to do something to help them learn. And the brain is part of the body like the lungs and everything else. So the knowledge about the brain was coming into the fore, and we felt we had to nourish the brain with books, just like we nourish the brain and body with food.
Okay, yeah, so that shows us that actually it's not an only intellectual or educational topic, but it's also a health topic, actually.
Yes, and the data is pretty clear. A report came out that the duration of education is the biggest predictor, more than cigarette smoking, more than obesity, for lifelong health.
We have read a lot about what you have started in America 30 years ago, and if you could please tell us a bit more about the beginnings of Reach Out and Read. How did you come up with the idea to recommend reading and book sharing to parents of young children?
Sure. I was a young pediatrician, and I was reading to my young children. And then I started just asking families I was taking care of whether they were reading to their children. And many said no. And I asked why. And they would respond, well, I don't have any books in the home. And they would give a number of reasons, like there were no children's bookstores near them. But the most important reason was that their parents didn't read to them. In many cases, they came from other countries, and therefore it was not a tradition. And I started thinking about that and just started giving away a few books to parents. And I'll never forget the first time I did it to a child, and I gave the book, and the child looked at the book and his face lit up in a smile, and then the mother's face lit up in a smile. And I thought that was wonderful, because in a pediatrician's office, usually children don't smile because they're afraid of getting shots. So that to me was both important, that I was doing something that was important to the child, and I was also making them smile, both the mother and child. Yeah.
So you started by yourself, or did you have other people?
I had a younger colleague. The two of us started and just started doing it for fun. But then we thought, well, maybe we should, grow this, and so other families could benefit from it. And then we got a few other pediatricians who would do it, and everyone enjoyed doing it. And we then raised money to spread it first in Boston and then ultimately around the United States.
Yeah. And the reactions of parents. Why? I mean, obviously they're happy because the kid smiles, but what happens then? How do you persuade them to work with?
First of all, we did a number of studies that showed that the parents who we gave books to versus ones we didn't were more likely to read to their children, read to them more frequently, and the children's language development was improved. So that told us a lot, that somehow the children were benefiting. The children were benefiting from it. But on the other hand, I have images of a toddler running across the waiting room yelling, want book, and these are things we just didn't see. So we really changed the whole atmosphere of a pediatric visit, with its emphasis on fear and shots, to thinking positively about the opportunities to help parents and to help children by doing something that all of us as pediatricians knew was important, because we did it with our own children.
Yeah, and in short words, how would you describe the benefits, right, for the child?
The benefits are well documented in studies showing that parents are more likely to read to their children, more likely to read at bedtime, the children's language development was improved, and the home literacy environment was increased. So every study that was published from different places showed a different positive outcome. No showed negative outcome or no positive outcome. So it was pretty clear that this worked.
Yeah, and also you state often the brain development and the relationship around book sharing. Could you tell us a bit about that?
You can think about it from a human point of view, that parents' reading is enjoyable and it makes an important connection to them. But as pediatricians, we started realizing that the brain was rapidly growing and changing in young children, and studies have subsequently shown that parents reading to their children does stimulate the brain development. So we have brain development and improved language development, so that really sort of further confirms that this really matters for children.
And helps.
Yes.
So basically you're saying that parents should read to their children from the very beginning, or when?
I think parents can start reading when they want, but I think reading at birth isn't as important as talking and singing, because the parent's face is everything. Books come in play when children are about 6 months of age, when they develop joint attention. So a parent and child can pay attention to the same thing. And children then like to look at books with common pictures, particularly babies' faces. And that really becomes the beginning of the sharing. So I think 6 months is fine. I think you want to do it earlier is fine, but singing and talking is really all young babies need.
Okay.
One other thing, that when I tell parents that reading isn't about learning language or learning the alphabet, I tell parents that if they read to their children, the children will learn to love books and learn to love learning, because they're sharing books with someone they love. And I believe that, and I think that's really what's important.
Yeah, so it's not only for their development at the stage that they're at, but it's also for the future, right?
Yes. Everything we know about early development is that there's a trajectory, and you build on one skill after another skill, and the goal of Reach Out and Read is so when children enter school, they're really ready to learn. And that both helps them and also helps the teacher, because you have children who are ready to go, and the parents, yes.
It's probably easier to have a child who learns and does well at school than not to have such a child.
Well, children who don't do well in school, start feeling depressed and anxious and start acting out a little bit. So that causes a secondary problem both for the parents and the school. So having children achieve is important, not only for the school achievement that it represents, but for their also feeling good about themselves and not getting into trouble.
Yeah. And to come to a very precise recommendation and help for parents, should we as parents read an hour or 30 minutes, or how long? How should it be organized?
First of all, young children's attention span is very short, and I think if a parent wants to read 5 minutes a few times a day, that's fine. I think children aren't going to pay a whole lot more attention than that. So it shouldn't be a big commitment, and it's an important commitment that parents make given the benefit for the child's brain development. And I think when parents know that, they're willing to do it. I also think reading is an unhurried time, which is very important these days, because parents are always in a hurry, whether it's feeding the child, getting them out in the car, getting them dressed. This is the one time the parent and child can sit, and it's a very special, enjoyable connection for both a mother, father, and their child.
Okay, and maybe one last question about book sharing. What do you mean when you say that reading might not be the exact word?
The book is like a toy or a tool for parent and child to talk to each other at different ages. So for a child at a year of age, 18 months, it's books with bright colored pictures of common objects that the parents can say, oh, where's the apple, or where's the car? And they can talk about it, and over time they can point to the color. So it's not reading, the text isn't important, it's the back and forth talking that's critically important. And when children are about 2.5 or 3, you know, then telling them a story of a common experience that they have becomes more in play. But whether parents tell the story by looking at pictures or they read the text, it doesn't matter. But the point I want to emphasize is it's not reading the text. It's enjoyable back and forth talking, with an emphasis on the enjoyable and the back and forth.
And the back and forth. So we as parents should engage the child into a conversation, in a way, right?
Yes.
Into a dialogue around the book.
And the book makes it easy, because you know, there's very other topics you can talk to your 2-year-old about, but a book is something concrete, and they can recognize the objects, they can answer your questions, and the key is you'll know if you're doing it right because the child will be engaged with you
or
and
not.
enjoying it. And if they're not engaged, then you think of another strategy.
Yeah, try to work differently.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And see you soon.
See you soon.